24th of December 2019. Christmas is in the air. Hello and thank you for joining us on the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangouts. As we say, Merry Christmas to our Christian viewers. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, after long delay, federal government orders release of Dasuki, Sowore from detention. Governors Dickson, Wike trade words over disputed oil well. Outcome of governorship election in Bayelsa State. Can wait into Obaseki Oshiomhole feud as APC reject call by the governor to dissolve peace panel. And later on the show, governors insist on review of revenue sharing formula as condition for minimum wage implementation. I'll be hanging out with Sola, Ojewusi, and Cyril. Abaku is still in this house. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. It's Christmas season, and the season is reputed for sharing of love in what could be described as a Christmas gift to human rights community in Nigeria. The federal government has ordered the Directorate of State Services, DSS, to comply with court orders granting bail to the duo of former National Security Advisor Dasuki and convener of #Revolution Now protest Sowore, according to the statement by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abaku. Government enjoined the defendants to observe terms of their bail while the trial run their course. Cyril, better late than never. But because this, especially Sowore's case, the international attention it got, the attention it got from the human rights community, Amnesty International, all the activists across the globe, and even congressmen from the United States writing to the Attorney General. I think this has dragged the reputation of the federal government into, the mud.
Of course, and then it also puts a lie to claims by some of the people who are defending government when they told us to our faces that Nigeria is a sovereign country and that, it could do whatever it wanted to do. Nobody is the policeman of the world. The fact is that even hours ago today, a new U.S. ambassador arrived, in Nigeria, submitted a letters of credence to the president. These same issues were raised lightly. The fact is that it's a good day for the human rights community and even for the media, because this was what we've been fighting for, whichever way you want to take it. The reason why people stayed the cause, the reason why resistance protests were staged across the country, and good thing, I think the ultimatum which they issued to the federal government for about 14 days is there to elapse, And so I think that from all sides, both internationally and domestically, the pressure has worked. But the fact is that, a severe damage has been done to the image and reputation of a particular era in our democratic evolution in the past 4 years. I think that people need to sit down and tell themselves some home truth. There was no basis. So whatever it was that you were afraid of in releasing these people, has that fear now suddenly gone away? Mm-hmm. In any case, these people won't have more than killed 2 flies.
Sowore was so consequential.
Not even one. Ayo.
It wasn't.
I have never prided myself as a historian, but I love history. Go and check the French Revolution to the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Go and check even in Cuba. You don't have the kind of social paradigms that can give birth to such a mass movement that you say that, look, if we let Sowore be, look at June 12th.
Even the civil rights community in Nigeria did not even key to the protest because they said Sowore did not carry them along. So it was an haphazard arrangement.
Look. Nigeria has had stronger, fiercer, more dangerous flashpoints. At no time in history have we, not even in the days of Abacha, the Ganifa Wayimi or Bekor and some Kuti, any of those people, so there's no history where Nigerian activists have ever taken up arms against the state. They have said even worse. I took the later part of last month researching some documents and newspapers that were published under the Abacha era. The Nigerian media has written even worse about governments. Nobody was sent to jail the way, nobody was treated the way Sowore was treated. At the most, what we had was that you had Abacha's kangaroo courts sentencing people to jail to justify and impose legitimacy on why they needed to keep them behind bars, but not in this case where when the court says release them, And it's not just for Sowore. I think that, Sowore became the landmark or the signpost of a trend where people are arbitrarily put behind bars, no question asked. How can you say we are practicing a democracy? I am happy that Sowore has been released and that Dasuki has been asked to go, but we now need to deepen the discussion and reinterrogate the basis on which the state can arrogate to itself powers to hold people extrajudicially. I think that we need to thank God they're out, and thank God that, like Sowore's wife was saying in the video, that she had told her children that their father will be home for Christmas. Wow. At least he's out on Christmas Eve.
His bail condition does not permit him to go home.
No.
Manhattan, USA.
It's fine that he's even out of jail.
Okay,
It's some kind of psychological relief.
in Abuja,
but I think that
Abuja.
it is even now that the discussion should now continue.
Okay, let's look at the way the federal government handled the whole process. Femi Adesina was quoted as saying that who made US the police of the world, and if anything, going by the tweets I saw from Garba Shehu today, the most ridiculous tweet I've seen in recent times. By the time you are describing somebody like Femi Falana, SAN, you are saying the popularly acclaimed human rights lawyer and a former unsuccessful opposition candidate for a governor of Ekiti State, Femi Falana, has boarded a free publicity train. For crying out loud.
I think
that's a low from somebody that speaks on behalf of the president.
Considering the kind of vibes coming from Garba Shehu lately.
Thumbs down to
I think
Garba
sometimes
Shehu.
It's better to ignore Garba Shehu.
Because
it's getting ridiculous. To the worst. As a journalist himself, he knows the nitty-gritties of the kind of things you say in the public. The Yoruba have a proverb. They say, if you are given the errand of a slave, you have to deliver it with the fervor of a freeborn. So if you want to even do, there are some things you don't even go into, as a media practitioner, you don't need to. And he has to understand that, power is transient. You're still going back to the basics.
If people like Falana cannot speak up today.
I don't want to dwell on that. If you begin this same Falana was the bastion when they had issues in Kano, the Buhari government. He was like, he did a lot of things pro bono,
2015 election,
gratis to them. So now he has not become
the same government.
Somebody like Falana will not see evil and say it is good.
Yeah.
He has to come out and tell this government that you are derailing. But you know what? I want to take you.
Federal government on this show.
You asked the question. 2015. I mean, if the presidency or the government is saying they are not banned by whatever the international community says. But then we have to take the president back to 2015 when he was in Chatham House. And he promised the world that he was going to share the garb of a military man, the dictator that he was called, or he was, and the way the world see him. He was going to be different. He was going to observe the rule of law. He was very verbose, telling the world, no, he will be a different person, a Buhari, a Democrat, he has changed, he's born again. But from the feelers, what we are seeing, Nigeria is a part of the international community. That's why you're part of the United Nations, you are a part of the African Union, you sign into a number of international agreements. You cannot say you're an island entire in itself. You have to be part of the main. You are part of the world. It's no longer a local village in Daura or in Ibadan. You are part of the global community. And whatever you do in Nigeria, in a second, it's seen. Now, let me tell you, the government began to shoot itself in the foot when it felt nobody is going to talk. We have reached a stage in our democracy that one of the greatest things you can do to a nation is giving people the right to express themselves. Exactly. And if a government does not appreciate that element of our freedom as a society, then we cannot allow that government to take us to the years of the Zinjanthropus, or whatever I can say. So I think the government, to me, I'm approaching this thing with cautious optimism because it's the same government that released Sowore yesterday, the next day. So they have to. I'm just waiting.
It's the judiciary that pronounced that bill, but now the executive, they're in charge of
came out with
DSS, the police, and everything.
Yes.
If the Attorney General of the Federation, it's as if Femi Falana foresaw this. Femi Falana actually asked the Attorney General of the Federation to take over this case. So immediately the Attorney General took over this case. Falana sent me a press release.
Good.
And he was instructing Falana that, Falana was instructing him that, do you know what? The state does not have a case against us. Yeah. Please, Mr. Attorney General, you are in the best position to enter a nollie prosecute.
To save the face.
To save the face of the
this government.
I think the best way out is to, observe this bill first. I think that's what the Attorney General has just done.
Ayo, I differ unabashedly. How long does it take the AGF, not a lawyer, the Attorney General of the Federal Republic
Chief Law Officer
of Nigeria, how long does it take him to study? He does not even need the case. Okay, so Falana is an interested party in the case because he's representing Mr. Sowore. But I don't even think that the AGF needed the case files to understand everything that was going on. When did he take over the case? And why will it take us this after how many days now to and what we come up with?
There are procedures now.
If they want to follow, it is not a case of procedure. See, what I think is this. Now we have an opportunity to put this matter where it belongs. Like Falana rightly said, there is no case against these people going. In terms of the state versus them. So what must happen is this. The Attorney General should not wait any longer. He should enter the nollie prosecute because he has the power. And then, perhaps, you are talking of processes. If they are looking for a political solution to the crisis, I am not in government. I don't want to be there. I am only saying that I think that the government, at some point, somewhere, needs to sit back and maybe have, because public confidence today is seriously eroded. They need to do more than release Sowore. There ought to be some symbolic show of the fact that, look, we are answerable to you Nigerians. You recall that in Abacha's time, people refer to Abacha and say he had a good economy, but his record was extremely poor on human rights. And what did he do? At some point, Abacha said the highest court of the land was also under him. You had when some point we are even saying that if they will treat Sowore like this, why don't suspend the constitution at once?
But I think it's quite unfortunate.
My take is
if by now we have to be putting the elected government of Buhari on the same pedestal as that of Abacha, a notorious dictator.
Okay,
I think they have a lot to
Let me
really
take the first caller for today. Aki is calling us from Ogun State. Thank you for joining us, Aki.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
Journalist Hangout.
Go ahead with your contribution. We're with you.
Yes. Yes, the release of the former...
Aki, go ahead.
Yes. The release of Dasuki and Sowore can...
Aki, you are listening to your own feedback. Go ahead. Just talk. You're live.
Yes. It's really appreciated at this period, even though there have been pressures internally and internationally. But the fact remains that the government has listened to the voice of the people. Yes, the government has listened to the voice of the people, and we should be able to appreciate this at this time.
Thank you, Aki.
Thank you.
Let's look at the heroes of this struggle. As of 2 weeks ago, a national paper called Punch newspaper decided in its editorial, and I was researching and asking my lecturers, my professors, have we ever had a situation where newspapers or columnists take an editorial stand? They said yes, yeah. It's quite novel and it's good. And they said since this administration has taken the country back to military era, they are going to refer to President Buhari as Major General Muhammadu Buhari. I think that with the release now, this should change the narrative.
I think the pedigree of Punch is something you have to be proud of in terms of its contribution to what we call democracy in Nigeria.
Yes.
If anybody
regardless
is going,
of what Daily Trust has done,
it's unfortunate.
I
think Daily Trust is, to me, the pride of the North. Let me say that. And to a level, they've done some excellent jobs of journalism. But going to this kind of level is a great dent, and I think they have to retrace their step. You know, journalism is about the people, not about your loyalty to a particular clique that will not last. So you have to put the people above your personal considerations or whatever allegiance you have. And, you know, in coming up with that, I think there's a lot of unprofessional approach to what they did regarding the response to the Punch. The best thing you will have done is to come up with your own editorial, not casting a lot of aspersion on what is seen internationally as one of the very, very great examples of true journalism. So we have to praise Punch, and Punch, along with many other people who have really been the vanguard.
I don't think that Punch should, even in the next 1 month, suddenly stop the campaign. They should continue to refer to the government, to Mr. President as a Major General.
He ended it.
No.
He's a Major General.
No. So, fine, so they should give it to him. And his government as a regime.
You don't pick up that title.
He should wear it with pride.
Look, including calling his government a regime, he also ended. Now, what my take is that, look, the campaign has won, clearly. And so,
let's take Gbenga from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Gbenga.
Yeah,
go ahead with your contribution, Gbenga. You're live.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, Gbenga.
The issue at hand is a delicate one, and not just a delicate one. It has also tainted the image of this country
substantially
for over, a period of time now. We have consistently been brought back to where we had long left. It is a great damage on the entire territorial integrity of this country.
Thank you, Gbenga. At least I can. I know where you're coming from.
So let me quickly land. At least up until the end of the first quarter of next year, we must make sure that everybody in Sowore's capacity in detention should be released.
Agba Jalingo,
the
governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, charging Agba Jalingo for attempting to overthrow his government. A state governor, I've never seen that in a democracy. And
a professor, for that matter.
A professor. So that Governor Ben Ayade, what's his name?
Yes,
Ben Ayade.
Professor Benedict Ayade, we appeal to you, yes.
Please, let your Attorney General go and Commissioner of Police file a nollie prosecute and release that young man. Now, our political experience has shown that Nigerian politicians hardly give up a fight or accept defeat in good faith. The governor of River State, Wike, and his Bayelsa State counterpart, Cyril Dickson, are on warpath over claims of ownership of Sowore oil well, despite a federal high court judgment on the matter. While Governor Dickson accused his colleague from River State of inciting ethnic disharmony in Ijoland to suit a political agenda. Governor Wike said the legal battle to reclaim the Sowore oil wells from Bayelsa State has nothing to do with politics. According to Wike, Dickson we have reports on this too, brewing disputes by our correspondents in both sides. So let's start with the report from River State, that's Uche Okoro, and we now go to Ovetime George after this report.
That judgment by a federal high court in Abuja a week ago has set the governors of Bayelsa and River States on a war path. For Governor Nyesom Wike, the legal battle to reclaim the Sowore oil wells has nothing to do with political differences or interest. He was referring to comments credited to his counterpart Governor Cyril Dickson. Governor Wike said he would pursue every legal means to protect the interest of River State.
I should go and sleep for somebody or for another state to take what belongs to River State. Is that how it does a friendship. I don't do friendship that way. I don't take what belongs to my people to do a friendship. Because when I leave today, somebody will ask question. You were the governor of Rivers State then. What happened? Why is it that you refuse to fight against this? And what would I answer? Because we belong to the same party then. Because he was my friend. That's what I will answer. That's what I will tell people. Certainly not.
Governor Wike also accused Governor Dickson of harboring an ulterior motive by visiting Rivers State without the knowledge of the Rivers State government. He also threatened to sanction any monarch who opens his doors to the Bayelsa governor outside laid down protocol.
I never said I will dethrone a man of I never said so. I said I will withdraw the recognition by government if he continues to disrespect the office of the governor and not to play according to the rules. I have the power to recognize and I have the power to take it back if you fall foul of the law. And I have no regret about it. And anybody who does it, I will withdraw the recognition. Heaven will not fall. Heaven will not fall.
Governor Wike also took a swipe at his Bayelsa counterpart, accusing him of misusing state funds for 8 years, beating his chest of achieving more success than Governor Dickson. For now, it is unclear if and when the Bayelsa State government intends to appeal against the Federal High Court judgment that conferred ownership of Soku oil field on Rivers State.
Yeah, Governor Wike was still kind of holding back, on this matter. He didn't speak in in the typical way he would speak. Now, let's take you to this report from Bayelsa State. When I saw this report yesterday, you will understand that the relationship between Wike and Cyril Dickson of the People's Democratic Party might have broken down irretrievably.
On the 9th of February 2013, Governor Cyril Dickson visited Buguma and paid homage to the Amayanabo of Kalabari Kingdom, King Theophilus Princewell. December 2019, the governor of Bayelsa was at the palace of the revered monarch, but this time, the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Ezenwan Wike, is not happy, citing a breach of protocol.
We made some calls and couldn't get him because he has destroyed all normal channels of communication. Governor Wike is deliberately inciting disunity in Niger land because of his ethnic supremacist political agenda.
Governor Dickson is also not pleased with the reaction of his counterpart in Rivers State.
Me or any other person who will be governor, whether it is Doye or David Land, they are sons of Ijaw nation. They don't need Governor Wike's permission to visit our traditional leaders and our leaders and elders and our people in Port Harcourt or in any part of Rivers State. Wike should stop treating and seeing Bayelsa as an annexed part of Rivers State. We're not.
The disputed oil wells and the recent ruling of a federal high court in Abuja was also addressed at the media chat.
My dear people of Rivers State, most of the oil proceeds in these disputed areas up till now, because of the amicable resolution and the way we are brother states, we promote understanding, most of them, the proceeds are shared 50-50 with Rivers State. Even on oil wells that are in Bayelsa clearly. And yet Governor Wike, whose state is running away from a delineation exercise, now went behind Bayelsa State, filed an action at the Federal High Court without joining Bayelsa, and had that kind of arrangement in a judgment that cannot stand.
Dickson sends a parting shot.
Wike should stop interfering even in the politics of Bayelsa State. He should stop. You all know what he did in the PDP primaries and the roles he played supporting the APC in their federal takeover of our state.
The laughter of the two governors may have ceased, but people of Bayelsa and River States would like to see them bury the hatchet and strike the chord of harmony that binds the sister states together for growth and development to thrive.
It's a tall order for Cyril Abaku. He's an interested party. Cyril Abaku is from Okrika in River State. So it will be very, very difficult for me to tell him to speak first. So let me spare Cyril. Let me allow you to gather your thoughts together.
Cyril will not take sides. He's a journalist.
He's an interested party. He's from Okrika in River State. So you understand where he's coming from.
But,
Sola,
yeah, Ayo,
from
really.
the Soku oil, from the... But one thing I read between the lines, politics.
Yeah.
Politics, and that's all is not well between
there is an underlying factor beyond the idea of two states vying for one oil well. It is obvious from the statements from those sides.
From what
and
Cyril
shows,
said the last election, he said he knows the role he played in the primaries. That means I gathered that Governor Wike wanted the candidacy of what's the name of this man? The former NDDC guy?
Timia Laibe.
Timia Laibe. He was one of the people rooting for Timia Laibe. He wanted Cyril Dickson to actually consider him, spent money, did a lot of things. And he was part of the gang up.
The Jonathan camp.
Yes.
Wike is more amenable to that.
Yeah, so that you even accuse them of supporting David Lyon of APC.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's obvious there is a political undertone. But it also tells you something, that there is a huge problem the handlers or the leaders of the PDP are facing. Today, there's been a lot of statement warning the two men that they have to really bury the hatchet, should stop talking in public. There has to be intra-party mechanisms to be used to sort this problem. But it shows, just like we are having some internal crisis in the APC, these people are also taking their internal crisis.
So who are the
use? Sir?
Are you an APC member?
I said these people.
Oh, you said we are
Nigeria. No, we are Nigerians.
I'm not.
We are faced by. Whether
you
we
said
like
we are having. I wanted to ask you, are you a card-carrying member of APC?
PDP, APC, they are parties of Nigeria. So it's something we have seen on the underground. Yes,
I'm not a member of APC.
But the bottom line is that there is a clear and present danger. The rhetorics, we have to be very careful. These are leaders of state. Wike in River State is a very huge voice. Just like Seriake, in spite of being lame duck, because he's singing his swan song as a governor. He's a lame duck governor, but he still has his force, his power over the state as an Ijoman.
Yes.
And he was also bringing that to the fore, that it's a kind of battle between the joys. Somebody is trying to create
even if
now the danger
or David Lyon takes over.
The danger, Ayo. You can see the way the mobs reaction to things like this. If it gets to a level that the people start taking arms against one another, so the rhetorics of the leaders will have to be watched, so that we don't have a very serious situation in our hands out there. They have to be very, very careful. There is a way. Sometimes the fight for land or whatever can be a statutory thing. You allow the courts to take precedence. If you have issues, go to the court. You don't need to go to the public, turn it to a kind of battle cry.
Even from the same
it's not done. It's so shocking. It shows the kind of disconnect that are set into that particular political party. And the leaders will have to call these people to order. We have to know that, the way that area can be very volatile. And if care is not taken, it may be more than this. That's what I'm going to say.
I think there is the war of personal disaffection between the two men. That's on one level. Going back to the PDP primaries, when one party was with the Tambuwa camp, the other party was with the
pre-2019.
It goes way back.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that the issue of the Oceania, that the borderline between Santa Barbara and shifting it to St. Bartholomew, that's the borderline between Rivers and Bayelsa States, as to whether Soku is part, I think they call it Oluwasibi or something like that. Whether the oil well belongs to the Soku community or to the Nembe towns. One thing is certain. I think that before 1996, before 1996, when Abacha split the two states, that area would just have been oil wells belonging to River State or the old River State, as the case may be. And Nembe and the river side of that whole thing, the Abonim and the Kokotoro people, we are all Ijos. I am an Ijo. So normally there is a sense in which we feel a common bond as one people.
Regardless of the states.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
so you are more at ease.
No. Okay. Hold on. You know, when Jonathan and his wife backed Wike to become governor of River State in 2015, the day Wike was to go and campaign in Abonima, in that area, the Oceania, he told Jonathan he was going to that place. According to how Wike was quoted in the media, Jonathan told him, go and tell them X, Y, Z. He got there, he said, look, that Bayelsa and River State have no reason to be at war over oil wells. And that in principle, we are going to devise a political solution to this crisis. Now you hear about the gerrymandering of land, where two administrative maps of Nigeria, 11 and 12, put the boundary in two different places. If the National Boundary Commission is also has its fair share of criminal negligence in this matter. Because you couldn't have, we don't know the basis on which they redesigned the map and shifted the boundary post from where it was to where it now imposed, or where it now gave one party to this dispute legitimacy to make contention. And how the Supreme Court said, NBC, National Boundary Commission, go back and readjust the boundary to where it is supposed to be, and up until today, they have not done what, they have not done the needful. I think that it is not particularly about Wike and Seriake Dickson. The wealth of the earth belongs to those who dwell upon the earth. So in this whole thing, have you ever heard anything from either the Abonima Council of Chiefs, Akokotor, or even the chiefs and people that live in that area? All we're hearing is what Wike said and what his counterpart.
The voice.
Now the issue. Hold on, sir.
Yes.
If God forbid, if there was a crisis today, they won't take up arms. It is the common man that lives in those fishing ports that are going to suffer. And so what I think we should do is that leaders of thought in Bayelsa and Rivers, they should come together and find a way to resolve this matter politically. There should be a political solution. If for a fact what Governor Dickson is claiming is true, that in spite of where the oil wells are located, that they were sharing the fund, because the claim is that, look, you are not supposed to have a portion of the cake in the first place. So even if they are dividing 50-50, I think that what needs to be done
should be okay.
Well, I don't know. I'm not. Look.
A political solution.
No. If there's going to be they should sit down and talk. When Governor Wike went there during campaigns, he went there with Tami Danagogo, who was the Minister of Sports and some people, and they said, okay, so what was if Rivers has been accepted that 50% and it's acceptable to it, then perhaps that can give us a template on which that solution can come. But I think that to all intents and purposes, they should sit down and talk. It is important.
Well, after all is said and done, I think amicable solution for the peace of that area. You know how volatile it can be. And our leaders have to be very careful. The traditional rulers may be a bit wary because you could hear the rhetoric coming from the governor. So they will be, but they have to, all hands must be on deck.
Okay, finally, let me take Umar from Abuja. Thank you for joining us, Umar.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Umar.
Yes. Once again, I want to... You can see what is playing out today. The God of Amechi is now revealing. They gang up against Amechi when Amechi was a governor of then River State. The president gave that oil well in question now, in contention now, to Bayelsa, to make sure that they bring Amechi down to a standstill. But I keep on telling Amechi, I thought I will single-handedly take him to my traditional ruler to give him the chieftaincy title, the Oduma of Niger Delta. The whole world are seeing them now. It is the God of Amechi that is fighting them now. That is how they will do it. In fact, the two of them are full of ego. Wike and Seriake Dickson.
Thank you, Umar. I don't know, maybe you're aware of that God, the God of Amechi.
I don't know.
Mr. Abaku, you are an Okrika man, and you
I-
guys share the same bond.
You keep
should be able
emphasizing
to-
this. No. Look, you see.
We have to go. We have to move on. I'm sorry. Still
okay,
to come, Christian Association of Nigeria can wade into feud between Obaseki and Oshiomhole, and APC leadership reject call by governor to dissolve peace panel. We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. It's Christmas Eve edition of Journalist Hangout. You're watching live from our Lagos here, our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria. And this is Journalist Hangout. The Bible says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." So we admonished by the Holy Book. Now, not to turn blind eyes to feeding neighbors. The Edo State chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has taken a cue from this to intervene in the crisis between the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Adams Ali Oshiomhole, and Governor Godwin Obaseki. At a press briefing in Benin City, chairman of CAN in the state, Bishop Oyenude Kure, said the association is closed to brokering peace between the two warring brothers. According to him, they have identified 8 issues that are likely responsible for the crisis. Meanwhile, the APC leadership has rejected a call by Governor Obaseki for the dissolution of the National Reconciliation Committee, tagging it as an affront to leaders of the party. Gentlemen, if you remember, when this crisis started from the Edo State House of Assembly, it was taken to the House of Rep and the Senate. And the findings from the House of Rep and the Senate, almost the same thing, saying that, look, Governor Obaseki should make another proclamation and reissue another fresh proclamation so that the House is going to be reconvened and reconstituted. But Governor Obaseki went to the courts, and the court said, wait a minute, maintain the status quo ante bellum. That's meaning that the governor cannot, I think there was a ruling, the governor cannot make a fresh proclamation. And that puts the National Assembly and the judiciary on the water. Now, choosing a reconciliation chairman, committee chairman, this chairman of the National Assembly, who is the Senate president, has been chosen by the APC leadership. And Philip Shuaibu and Governor Obaseki are saying that, no, this man has taken a stand before in the National Assembly that this man might be biased against us. Cyril.
Let me comment, Khan. This is a sort of above-board interventions that bodies like this should be making. When the waters are roiled, when the air is fouled, you need this sort of third parties, non-partisan as they should be, to come in and sue for peace, to use the cliche that we often use, to sue for peace. The crisis in Edo State does not do anybody any good. In the end, when you look at the core issues, it's a question of how do we share the spoils of government. It is not what democracy should really be about. As a matter of fact, Ayo, next year we are going to head into fresh elections in Edo State. The discussion has not been about how well one person has performed and what people's expectations are and how what the party promised people in the last election has been delivered to the people or anything of the sort. It is a question of who wanted what, who promised who what, who wants what, who wants to show that he is the real leader, who wants to show that he has the power, who wants to show that he is the person in charge and so on. It doesn't do anybody any good. We should not get used to anomalies. When a misnomer has become a monster, has become so huge that it is trying to fill the room, we should not give up on putting it to death. We should continue to fight it. I think that in the past 6 months to 1 year, Edo State has not given us, any of us, an example of how democratic proceedings and governance should be undertaken. It's a pity that the national chairman of a ruling party is having his backyard badly muddied. So much so that the same mudding is being seen within the larger framework of the party. Some governors met the president and we heard that there was some kind of bickering and people are saying he has to leave. It means that Mr. Oshiomhole, for instance, alone, now has the thankless job of trying to keep his job at the center and keeping his base at home also. I don't think he sleeps enough, even if he does. I think that he thinks a lot more about what is going on in his home state. So I think that for the APC itself to even retain the chance of winning with the re-election in the state, the earlier they put these cases, these domestic issues together and finding a solution, the better for them. What we fail to see is that when a party is at all, particularly a ruling party, so much is jeopardized. Just so much is jeopardized. There are those to be built. Camps intervention listed one of the issues. The first issue they listed in the communique statement they issued was the building of a specialist hospital. Why should two men be fighting over that? Where people are dying every day. Nigeria's mortality rate is high. Infant mortality, maternal mortality, life expectancy are nothing to write about in the whole world. And yet people are fighting over who should build, how to build a specialist hospital. It doesn't make sense. How many of them do we have? Doctors are leaving Nigeria in droves. And yet two people are fighting over whether to build a specialist hospital or not. I think that, the time has come for people to swallow their egos and their pride and allow the interest of what Awolowo used to say, the greater good of the greater number, override their personal ambitions. What will it cost Nigeria to have leaders who put Nigeria ahead of themselves?
Shala, let's talk politics now. Cyril has been diplomatic and tweeting about
this is me.
Now, there's a committee that was set up, and Obaseki said no.
If you recall, about 2 months ago on this program, the issue of Edo came up. And we said something about Edo being careful because Edo refused to learn from what I can call the Zamfara disease and also the Rivers disease. The Zamfara disease eventually led to, it became fatal for APC. Now, another party is ruling there. The Rivers disease, the crisis similar to what is happening in Edo, also took place in Rivers. They could not get their acts together, and they gave a Wike waiting in the wings the leeway to be able to retain his seat. Now, let me say, we said that the leaders of the party at that time will have to come together and create an avenue for genuine reconciliation in that state. It's unfortunate that, let me tell you, this thing is nobody is above board in this, whether at the national level or at the state level of that party in Edo State. Because, there's always this fear among state political powers to always be afraid of what is coming from Abuja, what they call the Abuja politicians. But, sometimes if you allow all those fears to take precedence and eventually, like you rightly said, elections are around the corner, you don't solve this problem, then you are going to succumb to the Zamfara Rivers disease. That's my take on this. But then, I think Oshiomhole too has history beckoning. He's a national figure, hero in so many ramifications as a labor leader who has fought. He has been at the bastion of, fight against oppression. I expect him to be above board when it comes to solving the problem in Edo. Sometimes you have to bend over backwards. But if you don't do a kind of give and take situation, then you are going to remain there and somebody waiting in the wings will take over that state. You may feel it's impossible, but if Zamfara was possible and Rivers was possible, then anything can happen in Edo. I think the people in this, the warring factions, maybe I'm also being diplomatic about it, but the warring factions will have to come to the drawing board and the negotiation table and solve that problem.
Why a win-win will pay, will be better is that both men, both Governor Obaseki and Mr. Oshiomhole, must realize that in the end, there will be a winner and there will be a loser. That is the simple truth. It is either the forces, the Abuja camp, will dethrone the governor and make him not to win the party primaries when push comes to shove.
The governor can decamp to another party.
And the crisis continues.
Then, or he will retain his seat and find a way to reach out personally to whoever he will reach out to, and then maybe. But the fact is this, you see, eventually, when you go over the political commentary, the national commentary, what people are saying, there is some sort of consensus that Edo State should not in the first place have fallen into this sort of shouldn't have fallen this low. This was something that was foreseen, and efforts were made early in the day to nip this whole thing in the bud. But but you know, one person perhaps always felt that he could eat his cake and have it.
Donatus is calling us from Owerri in Imo State.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen.
Merry Christmas, Donatus.
Yeah, same to you. My name is Venantius, not Donatus. Venantius Oleleu.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, on the release order by the federal government on the release of Sowore and Dasuki, for me, I want to believe this is a pure vote first on the part of the federal government, and belatedly too. Honestly speaking, if you ask me, the deed is already done. And I don't see how this can change the perception of both the local and international community about this government, of not having respect for the rule of law, of a government that is so averse to criticisms. It's indeed unfortunate. If we are in a democracy, as we say we are in a democracy, I want to believe it is the responsibility of the judiciary and the courts to either convict or acquit. And then it's the responsibility.
My time is fast spent. It's better late than never. So let's just thank God that this is a Christmas gift. It appears the vexed minimum wage question will remain with us for a long time. The chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, John Kai, if I may, says only a review of the revenue sharing formula in the country will enable governors implement the new national minimum wage in their respective states. Governor Fayemi, who was speaking with newsmen after a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa in Abuja, said they have made a presentation to the president and the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission on this. Now, if you consider the process such review will take, then you can say it will still be a long way to the payment of the approved 30,000 naira minimum wage and the consequential adjustment by most states. It's on record that the federal government, in most of their parastatal for that December salary, has reflected the new minimum wage and the consequential adjustments. So for December salary. But the states, as we've foreseen on this program,
I think it's perhaps the reason why the governors have to come together and say, well, it is easier for the government to be able to pay, the federal authorities to be able to pay, because they have the revenue formula tilted considerably in their favor. And they want to come up and say, the states now believe that for us to be able to achieve what has been laid down, we really have to get a kind of rearrangement of that formula. But you know what baffles me? We were on these issues so long ago. Now when it comes to the time of implementation, another problem is coming up. For how long are we going to dilly-dally about this payment? Is that not calling for another crisis? Because those who have been envisaging a kind of fillip or a kind of change in the status of their salary will now be held back by this new dimension. I think there has to be a very holistic approach to this issue of revenue formula, sharing formula. Now, it has always been said that the federal government has the formula tilted more in its favor. That's why people were saying there should be a kind of devolution of power so that the center will be less powerful than it used to be. I think it's about time we have to look at all of this so that this problem will not continue.
Cyril, yes. The governors are saying that, look, because Governor Fayemi cannot speak with a tone of finality that, look, it's not all states that will not be able to pay it. And it's not all states that will pay it. So I know some states now that they'll find it extremely difficult to pay the new minimum wage and its consequential adjustment, adopting the copying and pasting what the federal government has signed into law. They cannot pay.
Especially when they all depend on what's coming from the federal allocation.
I wonder why. wonder why. Each of these governors campaigned on programs. If you go and check, they promised that they were going to devise creative ways and means of turning their states to the New York of Nigeria. This is the time to show working. That is one. That is one. Number two, I think that the governor's forum presentation is a reaction. At the risk of being immodest, we were on this program one day when we said that the governors should not even sit back until federal government passes this bill. That there should be their own intervention coming together to say, how exactly do we think we are going to be able to meet up with the challenge of implementing the new national minimum wage? It was a question we posed on the show. Now, that being on the sidelines, Labour itself should not rest on its oars. They have not won. This is even the time for them to. I wish that. Yes, I wish that what the federal government what the governors are taking to Mr. President, can be up for public debate as well. Because in the end, that money is not for their own salaries and payments. It is for workers. It is it's for civil servants. And so, this is the time for us to mount all the pressure that we can mount. The actual proposition I expected Governor Fayomi's forum to be leading now is to say that we have a cart without a horse to move it. We have bills to pay without the means to pay it. Taking more money from federal government is not a guarantee to pay minimum wage. Generate what you're going to pay. The real proposition should be that powers should be devolved. You don't give somebody a bread or a fish and think that you're going to cure hunger. When they go hungry again, they will still come back. Empower them to give them a net, give them a canoe, give them a mesh, give them a paddle, and a lamp. Let them begin to go to the sea, to the river, and look for ways to get fish. You can find different kinds of fish. I expect the governors to say, this is crunch time. Federalism now or nothing. We will start to lose nothing if we did that. But to ask, and that is why Nigerians don't understand what federalism is about. Let me explain on national television. Federalism is not about federal government giving states more money. That's not what it is. Under federalism, there is no allocation as a matter of fact.
Nobody goes to the center for anything.
It is that if we have gold in Ilesha, we can mine that gold
and just pay tax to the center.
Just the same way some jobless young men go and mine it. So it no longer becomes an illegal business. Young men can actually mine gold, mine ore, is it tin or whatever it is they call it. The result they have their place, sell them, bring the money and develop their places. So that this pressure of going to the federal government today and come back tomorrow won't be there anymore. It was what we practiced in the First Republic. It worked. It worked wonders.
Your final take on this?
I think I'm wondering where the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Commission is in this matter. They have been there over the years. And this is about the time the impact of that body, unless it's a paper tiger, will have to be felt. Because it is statutorily given the power to be able to solve problems like this. Though, if you don't have the kind of political strength to be able to achieve, this has to be looked into.
Revenue formula.
Yeah, it has to be done because otherwise there will be a crisis. That's just the point.
Thank you so much.
Workers are waiting, and something has to be done about it.
Sola Ojewusi, thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure.
Merry Christmas to you.
Same to
Merry
you.
Christmas. We're going to be here tomorrow.
I'm waiting for my hamper.
You get it. Cyril, Abaku, Merry Christmas to you.
My pleasure.
We're going to do it again tomorrow.
Sure,
we're here. Our viewers will be waiting for us for Christmas, and the BKO hopefully will be in the house tomorrow. That's Babajide Kolade Otitoju will join us for the special edition, Christmas edition of Journalist Hangout, and that's our offering today, this Christmas Eve, on the 24th of December 2019. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Merry Christmas, Nigerians. Bye for now, and see you tomorrow. Christmas Day proper.